Okay.
Hi, this is Jason Gould of Emerald Necklace Martial Arts, and I am sitting today with Dot Walsh. She is the Chaplain and Program Coordinator at the Peace Abbey in Sherborn, Mass. So we're sitting here in one of the buildings of the Abbey to have a quick conversation about what happens here at the Peace Abbey. So thank you for having me. This is certainly not our first conversation. I'm delighted to be back here again.
Hi. No, it's my pleasure, Jason. I'm really happy to have this conversation, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know, the Peace Abbey is dedicated to peace and nonviolence and social justice. And it's a place that I come to from time to time to reset and reflect and meditate and contemplate peace. So I'm here today with Dot to talk about a little bit what the Abbey is all about, and I'm hoping that you can give me your elevator pitch for what the Peace Abbey does.
Okay, so where would you like me to start?
Why don't we start with the Peace Abbey itself, its history and what goes on here, and then talk a little bit about yourself and how you got involved here.
Okay, so the history of the Peace Abbey, the parent organization is the Life Experience School, and that's a program that was set up in 1972 for individuals with special life challenges, whether they be mental, physical, emotional. And that program is still going on. The school is located now in Millis, and it was 1988 that Mother Theresa visited the school, which had moved over to this building, the front building, and the building that used to be the town offices, and also the public library in Sherborn. And so she made this unscheduled visit, and after that visit, this building that we're sitting in today, the guest house, was originally a parsonage, and then it was owned individually by a family, and after Mother Teresa's visit, they decided to leave. And with just the collateral of the building, the front building, we were able to purchase this building. And so the multi-faith chapel is in the building, the guest house, and we have 4 rooms that we have guests from all around the world that stay in those rooms. So that's what a little bit about this building. The front building is we've looked at that as the conference building and museum. And we have held weddings there. There's a meditation every Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning. And as you said, we're all about nonviolence, peacemaking, social justice. So the programs that are created here for children and for teenagers, for adults, are all about that peacemaking. And not only the external, but the internal. So when we have tours, and we have tours with a lot of young people who come, and we take them through the Pacifist Memorial down to, along the path, the Ghandi path to Emily's statue, and then up on the hill to the memorial statue, conscientious objectives, remembering conscientious objectives, and then, which is also a space where there is a portion of the cremation ashes of all the people that are mentioned on the stone.
Sure.
So that's just a little bit. I know that we have animals here, and those animals have escaped the slaughterhouse. We have Henry the pig, who came little tiny. He was the runt of the litter. And I said to Lewis, who was the director and founder here, Lewis, he can't even get in to nurse. The others are pushing him out of the way, and he won't survive. And Lewis said, well, that's Mother Nature's way. And I said, oh, and I came back on Monday morning, and I said, where is he? Where's that little guy? And he said, I took him home. So that's Lewis's kindness, and he's a very kind person and lover of animals. And so that little pig grew up with dogs, and he thought he was a dog, and he would run all around the property. And then he got very big, and the police said he rolled in the neighbor's garden and wasn't very nice, and so he had to come in and stay in the pasture. So we have a cow, Gabriel. We have a horse, Lily, and Brianna the sheep, and 2 goats, Andy and Ingrid. So the children like to come and to visit. Children in the neighborhood, children that come to visit here, always like to see the animals.
Sure. So, as you know, part of what I do as a martial artist, obviously, is the physical art, which is the blocking and the punching and the kicking. But I also try to instill in my students a sense of peacefulness through our training. So all of our students are required to do some kind of individually directed peace education project as part of their training, whether it be learning about nonviolent communication or learning about conflict resolution or just learning how to be peaceful and really studying what peace means. So that's one of the things that drew me here to the Peace Abbey is it's an opportunity for me to continue my own peace education and to perhaps inspire my students to do the same. So what might you tell someone who hasn't been here before what they can expect to learn when they visit the Peace Abbey?
One of the things that's really difficult is, and we face this all the time, is to tell people something about the Peace Abbey, to describe what we do, because it covers so many different areas.
Sure.
And then they say, well, what is it really like? And until they have the experience of really being here, it's very hard. I tell them, that you come and it's almost as if we have a little pamphlet that you can take your own tour of what's here. But I also say, ask questions if you need to ask questions, or just explore. And many of the young people, they walk the walls. The Pacifist Memorial has 6 columns, and on those columns, on the front and the back, are the prayers for peace from the 12 major faith traditions. Mm-hmm. And then on the walls are plaques of people who have passed on, who have lived their lives as peacemakers. And whether it was social justice that they were involved in, or some aspect of nonviolence, but they have stories, each one of them. And so some of the names are familiar and some are not. And people begin to look them up and learn more about who are these people.
Sure, and I personally have learned a lot from just walking around and studying those quotes. And for folks who haven't been here, just the ability to come in and peruse the bookshelves and really have the time and the quiet to sit down and flip through a book and learn about not just peace, but the peacemakers and their lives, and really try to make that translation into, how can I do this, or what's in it for me, or how can I become more peaceful, is the perfect place to sort of reflect on those things.
Exactly, and I think right now I have a group of students from a local community who are involved with Amnesty International, and one student came, and now there's more students coming, and they all want to come, and there's 30 of them, and they're involved in the program, and they want to come and they want to do some work of service, a gift of service, and they also want to have a tour, and they want to kind of explore themselves. So I'm setting that up right now. So we do that with a lot of different, groups, individuals, churches, Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts are coming. Next week there's a group coming. There's a group of interns coming from Newton South, and they're studying to be counselors, and they want to come here and absorb some of the energy that's in this wonderful place. I'm not prejudiced. So that's, we welcome people to come and to be here.
How did you get started here at the Peace Abbey?
A nice story. I was involved in prison ministry, and as a lay person on a chaplaincy team, and was involved in Walpole Prison was one of course they've renamed it, but Walpole Prison was one of the prisons, and one day this man came down and said, Mother Teresa's coming to visit. And I said, well, we'll see. And sure enough, he was right. And Mother Teresa was that kind of person. She didn't tell the head, of the Archdiocese of Boston, because she is Roman Catholic. She didn't tell the head of the prison, the commissioner. She told this inmate, I'm coming to visit. And they had 2 weeks notice to get ready.
Wow.
And so that was wonderful. I spent that day with her, and she was wonderful. She didn't want any barriers. If she wanted to speak to you, she would go right over, and prison is not only confining for prisoners, but confining for people that come in to visit. So anyway, she made her way. And while I was there, someone said to me, you know, she made an unscheduled visit to the Life Experience School in Sherborn. Do you know that program? I said, no. Now, I've been involved in the prison probably for 20 plus years, and I called, got a hold of Lewis, came over, and that was right when the Peace Abbey was beginning. So I said, I've had enough of this. I want to learn more about nonviolence.
Sure.
And so that was 1988, June 4th, 1988.
Excellent, excellent. So as the chaplain of the Abbey here, it's just such a wonderful place. I learn a little bit every time I come here. But can you tell me a little bit about your own personal peace practice and what that looks like for you?
Well, I think the meditation is really important. For me, spending time quietly, silently, and in that meditation, in that time of quiet, I'm able to let go of all kind of the confusion and the thoughts and the things that we face every day in our lives, because our lives are complicated and they're not a lot of times peaceful. So I find my center, I get my center, and then I can cope with whatever I have to cope with for the day. And so that's a very important part. And then reading, spiritual reading is important for me. You know, I like all kinds of reading, but I find that I find every day that there's a little something that I read that inspires me. I want to be inspired, and I want to be able to live out of the joy, you know, not out of the negativity, positive.
We had talked just a little bit earlier about there's so much here at the Peace Abbey with all the major faiths and the peace prayers of all the major faiths, and there's representations of all the major faiths here, that coming here, you might not be of any particular faith, but sometimes you can just sit and something that you read or something that you see will resonate with you personally.
Exactly.
So what resonates for you?
Well, lots of things. The chapel, of course, is one of my favorite places because you have all of the symbols in that one space. Mm-hmm. And you walk in there, and I think it's kind of like it's a clearing space. You know, if anything, you know, doesn't feel right, you know, it kind of tells you something about yourself.
Sure.
Am I not at peace with that religion? Am I not at peace with the statue of that represents the Native American or the Native African or the Buddhist? You know, what is it? Does everything, and I have to say that everything resonates with me.
Wonderful.
It's really, I go to that space and it's joyful. It gives me great joy. In fact, I've taken bits and pieces and put it into my, you know, copied to put it into my own home.
That's
so
great.
That becomes space.
I personally read a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh.
Oh, yeah.
And while I'm not a Buddhist, again, that resonates with me personally. But one of the things I read, I think it was last week, was that Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen Buddhist monk extraordinaire, in his personal altar, he has a statue of Jesus. So it's just one of those being open to and being receptive to something that resonates with you.
Right, and there's a wonderful book with Thich Nhat Hanh and Father Dan Berrigan, and how they communicate back and forth in this book is wonderful. And I think that's true of any of the leaders of the major faith traditions, that they were open. I know Mother Teresa was open to all religions, you know. There was no prejudice, you know. So I think that's an important piece, you know, to be open, to be loving, to be kind. Compassion is, you know, you saw the sign, remember to be kind. And that, you know, that kindness that translates. I have to sometimes think about that when I'm driving my car. Am I being kind?
Sure.
Am I letting people go? You know, am I, you know, how does that fit into my daily life?
So we have peace and peacemaking. We have all of the things that go on here inside the building. On my way in today, there was something that I didn't see the last time, and that was the small tent that you erected outside of the Peace Abbey as sort of proclaiming your support for the Occupy movement.
Exactly.
So, can you tell me a little bit about that and how it came to be?
Absolutely. Well, when we heard about, I actually was in South Africa and at a conference for the Global Alliance for Peace and people from all over the world, and they were talking about the situation, you know, the economic situation, and we had already had, we took part in a civil disobedience kind of blocking off Goldman Sachs' door, saying that Goldman Sachs, you know, was responsible for a lot of what had happened, you know, with the banking and with people's foreclosures and so forth, that the money was going to banks and not going to the people. And so then when I came home, you know, I'd asked someone from South Africa who was there in the government there, what do you think the world needs? And he said, we think we need a massive social revolution. And then the next thing I see, Occupy Wall Street. And so when I got back, Louis said, look what we did. We took the Ghandi statue. We have a portable Ghandi statue. You know, here on the grounds at the Pacifist Memorial, there's a 9-foot statue in bronze. Well, we have a portable statue, and that statue was left at Occupy Boston. And it became kind of the symbol for everybody. And everyone, every time I went in there, people would gather there and you know, it was their mascot. So, and they did trainings in nonviolence at the foot of Ghandi.
That's
and
wonderful.
So it was really, it was quite wonderful. So the tent was a way of saying that, you know, that's the symbol, is the tent. Because if anyone saw anywhere in these cities all across the United States, the tents, people were living in tents.
Right.
And so we've just, I haven't got them yet, but we have a bumper sticker they're putting together with a tent, and it says, we are the 99%.
Yes.
And a little, Dennis Kucinich has asked us to follow this bill. It's called the NEED Act, and to take back the money from the Federal Reserve and give it back to the power to the people. So that's part of our social justice, you know, the movement. And I think the young people are on fire. They are definitely, the student that was here from Brandeis was totally involved, and she's on her way to The Hague, to the International Criminal Court, and she'll be studying for second semester there at The Hague. And the students and young people are getting the message, and they're bringing it to the adults.
Well, I think that Ghandi is a great representation for the movement and is still relevant in that great quote of, there's enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. And to see how that is sort of manifesting today in a very modern way, where people are trying to take action in a nonviolent way that speaks volumes. So.
Exactly. So that's why, so we will, I would imagine now that Occupy Boston has been told that they have to leave, that the Ghandi statue will come back.
Right.
So.
Well, we will see what happens at midnight tonight.
Right. So I think there'll be Louis has wanted to go back to Goldman Sachs, but I don't know if that will happen, but we'll definitely have to bring the statue back.
Yeah. Well, another thing that the Abbey seems to focus on is cruelty-free living, whether that's through veganism or vegetarianism or just being peaceful. One of the things that we focus on in our dojo, why it may not be cruelty-free living, is healthy living. Mm-hmm. And we just actually hosted a showing of the movie Forks Over Knives, where they talk a whole lot about the health benefits of a plant-based diet. So we tend to focus on sort of healthy living through our diet and our conscious consuming and those kinds of things. But as you said, you're taking that almost a little bit further to, I don't want to say promote, I'm going to put words in your mouth, about a more compassionate lifestyle.
Well, I think that we have defined it that way. You know, many times we talk about cruelty-free living, and we talk about the human species, but we don't talk about all sentient beings. And all beings, we sometimes people don't, I think there's more understanding now and awareness of it, that animals suffer, and they suffer terribly, and they have feelings. And I mean, if you know, all of the animals here know their names, and they relate to you, in a special way. And I think it was back in, maybe it was 1990, that we had Rosa Parks came, and she received the Courage of Conscience Award. And we at that time had a little hors d'oeuvres with meat in it. She said, "Oh no, I can't eat." She was a vegetarian, and at that time she was actually a raw food. She did not want to eat,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she taught us something, and then a good friend came and said, "I can't believe that you people are not vegetarians." And so then we became vegetarians, and we learned more and more and more, and then became vegans. And it does, not eating the animals is a way of living a cruelty-free life. It also is a way of living a healthy life. The plant-based diet, more and more is coming out. They're doing research on that and saying how to stay really healthy is to eat more of the plants, fruits, look at your diet in a different way. Well, and people come here, some of the people at my age, my grandmother, and they'll say, "Well, it's not healthy. My granddaughter, she wants to be a vegetarian and she's not eating. How can she be healthy?" I said, very easily. We have a whole library of books in our kitchen in the other building, and it will give you information about nutrition. You can go online and get information. So it doesn't mean that you're not healthy.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned Rosa Parks. I didn't know that she was sort of a vegan, and it was really approaching that sort of that nonviolence through her diet. She is one of the symbols of an organization I belong to called the 100, or launched by Sensei Tom Callis, who also manages a program called the Ultimate Black Belt Test. And his association of martial artists, called the 100, was based on Rosa Parks, in that he said, if one lone aged African-American seamstress can change the world, what would happen if 100 martial artists got together and tried to do something in the world? So she really is.
That's right.
She really is sort of the pinnacle that we look to of, if Rosa Parks could do it by herself, what can we as martial artists accomplish in the world if we band together and try to do some good for the world?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I used to always say that to the men who were incarcerated, what if you turned your lives around? What kind of an army would we have that would be not an army of hurting people, but of helping people and healing people? It would be amazing.
Well, we have more potential than we realize.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I agree with you, Jason.
So our time together grows short. I've got a couple more questions, and one of them, you've told me some wonderful stories about the Abbey. What's your favorite memory of this place, your favorite experience? Aside, of course, from our lovely conversation here today.
My favorite. I have so many favorites. I mean, there's so many wonderful stories, and there's so much that we have a lot of fun here, besides, a lot of other things that happen here. Maybe I love the blessings of the babies. We have baby blessings here, and it's a joy for me to work with the parents who create then a wonderful way of bringing their child in, honoring them as instruments of peace, and blessing them in their, sometimes they might be little babies, they might be toddlers, they might be a little bit older, but they want to be able to make that a public kind of statement, and honoring them that way. So I love that. I love the children. I love to see the children come.
That's great. Well, thank you again for allowing me to come back and have another conversation with you. As we draw this conversation to a close, we both know that the Abbey is in some dire financial straits. How can people help?
It's a difficult question because we're at the place where we're at forbearance with the bank. And the property is for sale right now. We're still hoping that maybe we'd be able to raise enough funds to purchase one of the buildings and not allow that to be sold. We're also hoping that, miracles happen. We didn't have heat in the front building last year, and this year we have heat. We put a new boiler system in, and it's wonderful. The building is warm. So maybe it will happen. And that's my heart, that from my heart, that if people are interested, they can help out. They can send donations. They can keep us in their thoughts and prayers. That would help. They can come to visit. We welcome the visit because their energy would certainly help the energy in this place. And it's not all over till it's over.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for the time here. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoy our
Thank
conversation.
you, Jason. Yeah, and the work you're doing is wonderful and supporting all those young people. So keep it up. Keep going.
We will. And
Okay.
you know that I'll be back.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks again.